Hello, welcome to another episode of Infinite Prattle. Welcome. Today, I'm going to be talking about talking to myself. And there's a thing I still do, so stay with me for that. Hello, and welcome to Infinite Prattle! Unscripted, unedited prattle on everything. Hosted by me, Stephen. Listen, like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy the show. Welcome. Thank you very much. If it's your first time, welcome. And if you're coming back, still triple welcome to you too. It's been a bit of a busy week for me at work. Things are ramping up. The project I'm working on is only 3 months away from coming to fruition. Very, very busy. So doing stuff like this really helps me. So thank you very much for listening. It really boosts me when I see people listening to the show. So thanks. So today's episode is going to be about talking to yourself. And I don't mean in the sense of kind of almost like schizophrenia and people with like mental disorders, because I kind of like get that in a way, and there's no disrespect to them. You know, some people do have issues and they talk out loud and they can't help it. I do it consciously, and I don't think it's due to some sort of disorder. I think it's just how my brain works, and I've always done it, and I think it's a product of my vivid imagination, liking to hear my disposition to liking things heard out loud, rather than just in my brain. Although I have a lot of thoughts in my brain and think things through in my brain. I like to vocalize things, and also probably like talking out loud when I was a kid, like playing with toys and stuff. So I'm going to explain. I suppose whatever way you do this, if you talk out loud just in general, I don't know. Is it affecting someone else if you're doing it, really? You know, walking down the street talking to yourself? I don't know. But when I lived alone, I used to do it a lot more, to be honest. Or when I'm alone in my house, I do it. And I'm not sure that Sarah's caught me doing this or not. She may be able to tell me. Maybe she'll listen to this. Or I'll speak to her after about it. And she may inform me as whether she's heard me chatting shit to myself. But when I was a kid, you know, like most kids, you know, you make characters up. My brother was older than me, so we didn't really necessarily play together all the time, especially not with like action figures and toys and stuff like that. So I had a lot of I used to like miniature things, and I still do. So I had like micro machines and military sets, and I used to mix my toys together like kids do, you know. And I used to make stories up and narrate things and do people's voices and stuff. It was very, very, very animated, and I'd set scenarios up, but I'd get really into it, to be fair, and do all the voices, and you know, so I'd like play a commando character and be like, oh my god, you guys are gonna go over there, go around the back, oh my god, there's enemies incoming and all this, and proper really get into it. I mean, I must admit, I bet my mum and dad listened to me and thought, oh my god, I think they probably thought that's brilliant, but it's a bit disturbing at the same time because how much I used to get into it. But I'm still like that now. If I go around and, you know, one of my friends' house and play with the kids, I still get into it, and you gotta be enthusiastic, haven't you? Let's face it. And when you're a kid, like, you kind of block out the world. You get very much into what you're doing. And again, I still do that now. If I'm up in this room and I'm in the process of fiddling with, I don't know, like music software or video software, or doing a podcast, or editing something, or working on a logo, or tidying, or messing with my Lego, or anything. Sometimes I can go down a black hole, and time just disappears for me. You're very much into, I think, what the ADHD world calls a hyperfocus. And again, I don't know whether I have a touch of ADHD. The more I see around social media, I think I do. But I'm not bothered about having a label tagged to me or anything like that. It's nice to know your own mind, isn't it? So yeah, so I used to act things out when I was a kid. And one of the things I used to love doing as a kid was radio shows. So I used to pretend I was a radio DJ, and I would have one cassette lined up with music on, and the other one would be recording to, and I had a really good ghetto blaster. My brother-in-law's got it actually at the moment. I need to get it off him because it's a collector's item. I had this like tubular Hitachi ghetto blaster. So Michael, need that back. It needs to go on my display. And it was a great cassette player, double cassette radio on it and everything, and it had a built-in microphone, which was really cool. So what I used to do is I'd press the record on the record deck, and I would like pretend to be a radio DJ terribly, pretend to hide guests on, pretend to interview them, do the voice of the other guest, and then I'd play music that I'd record off the radio from the other deck, and play the music, and I'd introduce the artists and stuff. And sometimes I'd record. There's one of them. It's still on a cassette that I've got, and I'll have to try and digitize it and maybe play it on the show once. Play it on the show for you because it's hilarious. And I've loaded the Dizzy game for the Amstrad 64 in my brother's room, and I used to love the music for it. So I recorded that, and I'm introducing the music, and then I'm like speaking over there, going, "Yeah, let's get dizzy." Ugh. Terrible, hilarious to listen back to though. And I recorded that on the end of the Turtles soundtrack that I had on cassette that I recorded off the CD that someone had up the road from me. So yeah, I've always been like very vocal with play, and imaginative, and it takes me into adulthood as well. You know, I like go through conversations that I'm gonna have with people in my brain, and if I'm alone, I'll do it out loud, so I can kind of like rehearse almost. I have quite a lot of anxiety over speaking, and you wouldn't think it. Speaking in public, you know, that I'm going to say the wrong thing, and I think it kind of surprises people when, you know, when someone kind of as confident as me and kind of outgoing and likes a bit of attention. You know, I've been on stage and stuff when I was a kid and loved it. Never really got nervous, but like I also super nervous about it as well. And I think that kind of rehearsal thing that I do in my brain just takes some of the pressure off me. And I do it now. Like if I'm in the house on my own, I'll sing to myself, I'll talk. I have to make noise generally, and it came out a lot when I lived alone. So I bought my first house 20 years ago. I'm old. So I moved in when I was 21. Took a few months to go through, as all these things do. So technically purchased the house at 20. Moved in a few weeks after my 21st birthday. And yeah, I lived alone. And at the time, I just got the job on the railway that meant I worked alone. So I was alone in the signal box. And I was alone in my house. So yeah, to kind of always to keep myself. I think talking to yourself seen as something like insanity, like I touched on at the start, where you know maybe you've got some sort of disorder like schizophrenia, and I think it's like stigmatized that you must be a bit ill or mental, to coin a phrase. If you speak to yourself, whereas I've always thought speaking to yourself is kind of like just vocalizing your thoughts, and sometimes, especially for me. I'm sure it helps loads of people. I'm sure you might be thinking, yeah, if you say something out loud, it kind of like it's like an affirmative affirmation is the word I'm looking for, and it kind of makes it more real to you. So it kind of to vocalize is to understand. I think for me, so I still do it now. But when I lived alone, I used to talk through stuff. So I would laugh out loud watching TV because. When I lived alone in my own house, in my mum and dad's house, like I would laugh watching TV, but it was kind of knowing that someone else would hear to try and trigger an interaction. Potentially, I think. I don't know. But when I lived alone, I used to laugh out loud, and I used to vocalize what I was laughing at. I'd be like, "Oh, that's so funny because he's just done that," and "Oh, that's funny because he's just done this," and I would talk to inanimate objects, like so. I had like some cuddly toys or some action figures out. I know this sounds really sad, but it's a way of keeping yourself sane. I would go for weeks without seeing some people. Like a couple of mates lived in Crewe, but you can't always see each other. And when they started moving away, a couple of mates moved away due to work or university, and shift work and stuff. I was doing shift work. Some of my mates were doing shift work. My dad was still at work at the time. My mum lived in Ireland, so my brother lived in Shrewsbury, well, he still does. So there was sometimes like weeks when I'd go from actually seeing anyone I knew, and the interaction I had was with pretty much strangers or people in shops. So it was almost a way of keeping myself kind of sane. And I would have conversations with things around the house, like, but it was more like a conversation with myself. I knew the things weren't real. Don't worry, I wasn't like that far gone. I think that's where it kind of crosses the line if you're kind of seeing things as interacting with you back, whereas I knew what I was doing. It may sound bizarre, but I'm not that embarrassed to say. I don't think I'd do it with people around because I feel like it's something I do when I'm in private. I feel that Sarah may have heard me do this because sometimes when I'm in my room, I talk things through. Maybe not have a full blown conversation with inanimate objects, but I do talk things through. So I'll be like, right, that thing has to go there. That measures this much. That can move to there. That can do this. I've got to do this next. I've got to record my podcast. I'll turn my computer on. So I like talk things through so I don't forget, I think, more than anything. And it makes it more real and stick in my brain. And but when I used to live alone, I used to like act things out. So not just the conversations of things I was doing. So I sometimes come home and talk about my day to like download, because I didn't have anyone to kind of do that and download with. So I'd come home and go, oh, I did this today, and I'd kind of like make up questions in my brain to be asked. So, oh, how was your day? Oh, yeah, my day was all right, thank you. Yes, I've done this, this, and this. Oh, yeah, it was good. Yeah, proud of myself for that. Blah, blah, blah. And I would be talking to like, I've got like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle teddy bear that my mum bought me years ago, and I've got like my teddy bear from when I was born. Well, not when I was born, when I was very, very young, maybe 4 years old. And yeah, I would talk to them, and it was comforting. And it changed from being like an imagination thing to being like I suppose, a comfort thing. But I still used to do the imagination thing. So like, I'd sing in the shower and such things like that, or I might see someone on TV that would inspire me to like act something out and pretend I was an actor or pretend I was an action star. And I think I've gone through this before about how I get to sleep at night. About like, think sometimes if I'm really struggling to get to sleep, then I pretend I'm Bruce Willis in Die Hard. And weirdly enough, me pretending that I'm rescuing people from terrorists relaxes me and I go to sleep really quickly. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's like giving myself a story. And that story, literally, I go to sleep instantly. You can ask my wife. It's mad. And that's the story I use. Sometimes I use like the whole, like imagine yourself on a beach with like nice, blue skies and like the waves and blah, 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 blah. And sometimes that does it for me. Like more meditative, but most of the time I'm literally thinking I'm Bruce Willis in Die Hard or Die Hard 2 or a combination or my own version of that. So sometimes I'll imagine that I'm in the Marrakesh airport when we went to Morocco and something kicked off and I had to save the day. And I still imagine myself doing that, and then like I might be having a shower or just getting dry, and I'll play out me accepting my Oscar. There was a scene in Friends that had this. I think it was Rachel. I think was practicing. Monica and Rachel were practicing because I think was it Joey up for an award? I presume it was Joey because he's obviously a TV star and he was up for an award. He was practicing his acceptance speech. So then everyone else had to go practicing their acceptance speech, and that's basically what I do. And then I'd sometimes pretend, and this comes back from my childhood, pretend I was being interviewed for a radio show or a TV show, and I still do this. I still do this, and it doesn't make me cringe. It makes me smile because I'm glad that I still have that childish ability to like put myself in that mindscape. And sometimes I do like monologues. Like I'll like sometimes make shit up, but like pretend I'm in a situation I need to like act really, really, really well. I'm a gangster, or I'm a superhero. And this again might sound ridiculous to you, but try it. It's very, very cathartic. It gets your brain going. It makes you think. And just sometimes, if you've been alone for a while, just hearing someone talk, be it yourself, about something that relates nothing to your own life, for me, really helped, especially when I lived alone. I am a very social person. Don't get me wrong, I love my own space, but I'm very social, and that's why I used to go to the coffee shop all the time. In one of the episodes, I talk about my Cafe Nervosa, i.e. the one from Frasier. And I used to go to a cafe in Crewe called Rimney's, and that was my little glimpse of I sound like a right sad bastard, but you can't always rely on your friends to keep you company. They have their own lives, and doing shift work, obviously, sometimes I used to get days off in the week, so like they would only be able to see me say at like 6 o'clock at night, so I'd still have the whole day to fill in. So I'd be alone all day, and going somewhere like a cafe and just watching people, in a non creepy way, and just being around people is really really helpful, and it's just good for the soul, I think. And you meet people, you talk to people, you talk to the people that own the place, and I think that in itself really helped me. And I think it's healthy to have a good imagination. I think it's good to use it. It's good to get that creativity out of you. And yeah, it's something I do to this day. And I've been toying with the idea of like doing kind of like some role play, and like an episode of this podcast is me doing the role play. I may do that. I may record it and see how it goes. And if I feel comfortable, then I may share one. Because it's something always in the back of my mind. Like I used to do like acting, say acting in the loosest sense, but I used to be in school productions and stuff when I was growing up, and it's always something that's been in the back of my mind, like doing music. And now I'm in a band, 2 bands technically, but one of them bands is looking at getting gigs, so it's really cool because I'm kind of doing the music thing finally. Maybe not the aspiration of being a rock star like I thought maybe like 10, 15 years ago. But you never know. You never know when things take you. The band's pretty cool. Like they're all talented blokes. And I've been recently thinking, all this monologue stuff and all this kind of like imagination stuff. Like maybe I could channel it into acting again. So it's something I've been thinking about. I don't think I've vocalized this to my wife yet. So, but all this like imagination I have, I feel like I could put it to better use rather than just fucking role playing in the shower or just talking shit. But I think it really helps. Like even if you're not like doing the role play stuff and you're not imagining yourself winning an Oscar, I think just to like vocalize like goals and targets or what you're doing, talking to yourself. So for me, I always leave the toaster on, the George Foreman grill thing on. It hasn't got an off switch. It's just literally if you turn it on the plug, it's on. And I always leave that on. So when I turn it on, I go, right, that's on. And then when I finish what I'm doing, I'm like, I have to flick it off, and I say it, I verbalize what I'm doing. And that's a well-known psychological technique for making sure you're doing a process. So I've kind of taken that from some work stuff. But it is helpful if you talk things through. And also, if you do get overwhelmed, which I definitely do, and if you looked at this room, the last time I recorded a podcast, I think I mentioned it on last week's, there was Lego on my desk where I'd been sorting Lego, and there was random shit I needed to put away. It's all still there. I have done nothing. It's all here still, in front of me. But I'm okay with it, because, I have a plan now. It's taken me a week when I formalised a plan. I've done some stuff in the garage in the meantime, because can't stick to one task at any one time. So, it's all good. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it, and that's just what we are sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know whether this is a normal thing. I don't really think I'm mental now, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I don't know why I have to keep saying that. I feel like people might listen to this and think I'm being harsh for people that do have things. I mean, you do see people walk down the street talking to themselves, and I do that as well sometimes. I'll walk along singing, definitely. If I'm listening to music, I will definitely sing out loud while I'm walking down the street, pretend to play air guitar, and I really don't care. It's nothing that's ever really bothered me. And I do sometimes think, I bet people think I'm mad, but then it's like, well, maybe they just need to loosen up. Yeah. Do you talk to yourself? Have you ever lived alone and found you did, and did it help? And how good is your imagination? Could you sit and have a radio interview conversation with yourself? Oh, let me know in the comments. Well, thank you very much for listening. That's been a little bit of a delve into the deep depths of my brain and imagination, and I wanted to just go over it because I wanted to touch on imagination stuff again, because I did it in the first series and I've really gone back to it, and it's a big part of my life. Like, I love to be creative. I love to use my imagination, and I am trying to push a book through. I am trying to get books out of me, and I think that's part of it. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to use a dictaphone to write my books. Because I find it difficult sometimes just sit down and type. Maybe that's what I should do. Dictaphone it to myself and then type from the dictaphone. Well, I've had an epiphany while doing this podcast. Amazing. See, talking out loud, it helps. You see, right? I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. Really, really appreciate any support you can give. Just a thumbs up is amazing. Just to let me know you're out there. And until next time, take care of yourselves and keep prattling on. You've been listening to Infinite Prattle. Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, go back and listen to some others. And please continue to listening. Your support is muchly appreciated. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll speak to you all again soon. Take care.